Genesis chapter 18, if you will. And Genesis chapter 18, and I appreciate you. Y'all weren't warm until I told you the air conditioner went out. Then all of a sudden it got really warm, didn't it, on this side? But it's good to have Miss Musers with us, Miss Donna. They joined, her and her dear husband joined a couple of months ago, about a month ago. Her husband, John, is very, very ill and can hardly get around. And Miss Donna caretakes, so if you see her in and out, we appreciate her. And then Miss Waters is with us tonight. And it has been 1 year since she's been with us due to health problems. And that's one grateful lady right back there to be in the house of God. And so we are glad that you're here. And so praise the Lord on that. Love church, and I love the fact that people want to get in church. And so God bless these two and pray for them. And Miss Waters' health, and then Brother Muser's health, and just keep them in your prayers. Genesis chapter 18. I'm going to ask tonight that you not take notes, because I'm going to give you just a lot of material and a lot of different things, and you can walk yourself through the CD. I would much rather that the Word of God be the focal point of everything that we look at tonight, and I would much rather it sink into what I'm saying, rather than maybe be a little bit distracted from the trying to write everything down. And I know it's a little bit different. Usually I don't mind note-taking, but tonight I just want us to really focus in on the Word of God, and let's keep the focus on the Word of God, to the pastor, back to the Word of God, and so if we get that done. Genesis chapter 18, let's all stand if you don't mind. Genesis chapter 18, and in verse number 19 is where we're at. Genesis 18:19, and I'm going to ask that we read it together out loud. Genesis 18 and verse number 19. And then we're going to Genesis 19 and verse number 14. So we'll start in Genesis 18:19, and then we'll go to Genesis chapter 19 and verse number 14. And Brother Jason and Miss Shanda, I get that right? And they're visiting with us, and we are certainly glad that you're back tonight. Genesis 18:19, are you ready? Begin. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. Now go to chapter 19, the very next chapter, chapter 19 and verse number 14. Chapter 19 and verse number 14. Are you ready? Have it? Here we go. Ready? Begin. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And we're going to preach on this subject tonight, commanded or confused. Commanded or confused. And I really want you to listen, because I'm just going to put the train on the track and we're just going to get on down the road. And I really want you to soak in everything that I have to say tonight from these two chapters. And let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for all that you've given us. I truly believe that we are a strong church, not because of the pastoral leadership, but because of your word and the fact that we as a church exalt your word, that we exalt the name of Jesus Christ, and that to us it is very important that we hear from you every time that we meet together. Thank you, Lord, especially in these recent days, how that I have walked away from the service being encouraged and being challenged and being convicted. And God, may you do it again tonight. May you work in all of our hearts to where we grow just a little bit more as a Christian. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. May be seated. I'm going to show you a contrast tonight between two men in the Bible, Abraham and Lot. Keep your Bibles open to Genesis 18 and Genesis 19, and we're going to toggle back and forth for a little bit. But the two men are vastly different in how they led their families and how they led their children. These two men were very wealthy men. These two men were very influential men. And these two men were men of stature, and by their own right, although we like to say that Lot was subservient to Abraham, it was not the case. Abraham had a mind of his own. Lot had a mind of his own. Every husband, father, leader in this room needs to take seriously your spiritual obligation to your family. Every husband, father, leader needs to take seriously their spiritual obligation to their family. It is not good enough for you to monetarily and physically provide for your family. If all you do is make the money, and if all you do is physically provide, then you are not doing what God created for you to do. Your family must have spiritual leadership. The reason families are failing in our society is because the husband, father, leader in the family does not rise to the challenge and to the occasion to where they spiritually lead their family. Now, I'm preaching at myself as well as I am every man in this building, that you carry the title of husband or you carry the title as father. Those who are failing as a husband and those who are failing as a father, in those times that I fail as a husband and I fail as a father. And by the way, can I just say this? There is no perfect husband, father, leader in this room. We are always on a journey to do better today than we did yesterday, and to do better tomorrow than we're doing today. And because we're at the front and because we're leading, it is very difficult to stay ahead of the game. About the time you think you're winning the battle and you're becoming that leader you need to become, you're always amazed, and I am always amazed that the areas that I think I'm doing good in, only to find out there are those areas that I'm like, good night, I should have seen that coming. And so, can I tell you honestly, wives and children, you better give us a break because we're doing the best we can. And I mean that. I don't think there's one husband, I don't think there's one father in this auditorium that on purpose is setting out to do any ill and to do any harm. But you listen to me, it's a tough deal. The other day a lady said, oh, my world is tough. And I don't doubt that. I could not and would not want to be a mother. Because I couldn't do it. I would not and could not want to be a wife. No, it's not going to work. But I know this, for every short-term stress, ladies, you go through, a husband goes through a marathon of stress. And for every 40-yard dash you're ready to kill somebody, we want to kill somebody for a lifetime. Guys, you can say amen because we need to educate our ladies. You're worried about having enough money at the checkout line. We're worried about having enough money to last for years. You're worried if the car is going to make it to the gas station. We're worried if it's going to survive till the end of the payment book. You're worried if the house is cool enough. And are we going to meet the bills this month? We're worried about the mortgage getting paid completely off. Ours is a lifetime stress. Ours is not a miniature stress. But guys, I will tell you this, that is no excuse for us not to be the kind of leaders that we need to be. When we fail, we are either leading from one or two vantage points. We are either leading from a position of selfishness, doing what is pleasurable to us, or guys, we're leading from a position of spitefulness, and we are going to do the opposite to prove that in our manhood, we can get it done without God and without the Bible. Either way, we fail. I'm going to give you facts about these two men tonight, and then I'm going to give us a game plan. Please listen to me. You are either commanding your family, your wife, and your children, or you are literally confusing your wife and your children. Most of the marital problems that I deal with, and nothing that is specific or particular, but it all can come down to this. When a husband does not know their role, and when a wife does not know their role, and when they do not work their roles in harmony and in concert with each other, then that is where problems come from. I spent a whole Wednesday night series on the wife in the Bible what she has to say. Guys, I'm not going to give you a series on Sunday night, but I do want to reach up into your world, and I want to show you two husband-father leaders that are completely opposite, and then you have to determine, do you want to command those under you, or do you want to confuse those under you? I don't want to be a confusing husband-father leader. I want to be a commanding husband-father leader. So let's take a look at the book. Genesis 18:19, look at it. For I know him, talking about Abraham, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. I forgot to put a little help right here, ladies. I got it written in my outline, and I had to print it in black and white instead of color. That's why I missed it right here. Wives, can I get you to do me a favor? Mothers, could you be praying during the sermon? Could you in your heart be praying? Not that your husband makes this transformation, but that God would speak to your husband's heart. And don't pray from a level of, boy, he needs this sermon. Pray from a heart that God, our family needs this man. And our family needs, my children need this man for you to do something in their heart. Genesis 18:19, look at it. Let me give you several things and just kind of soak them in. Do you know God knew what kind of man Abraham was? And God knew that Abraham, and it's very interesting the phrase here, that Abraham would command his children. His track record had proven to God that God could trust Abraham because Abraham was the kind of man, look at it in verse number 19, that he would train his children to do justice and to do judgment. You know what that means? That justice is doing rightness well. And judgment is declaring a verdict in a sentence or a formal decree of what is right. Guys, I got to tell you this, that your family doesn't need a waffler behind the wheel, and your family doesn't need somebody that doesn't know what to do behind the wheel. Your family needs somebody that knows this is how we're going to do right, and this is, I'm going to declare it. It's not going to be a question mark. I am not going to step up and take a poll. I'm just going to step up and tell you, this is the right thing to do. This is the right way to do it, and this is how we're going to do it. The thing that is lacking in our family that brings confusion to our wives and to our children is because us husbands don't understand. The wife just needs somebody to say, this is the right way to go, and this is the way we're going. Don't be scared to step out on what God has to say and step out on the way God says to walk, and just get out in front and lead. Let's stop getting off the throne and leaving it open for discussion. I'm not talking about being a male chauvinist pig. I'm not talking about being a jerk. I'm talking about being a man of God. And being a man of God does not mean you pastor a church. Pastoring a church for me is secondary to being a man of God. Being a man of God is because I'm a man. That was deep. Being a man of God is because I'm a Christian. That was deeper. Being a man of God literally means that God has placed in my care a woman that is called a wife, and children and grandchildren, and my family structure under me doesn't need a boy of God, doesn't need a student of God. They need a man of God that doesn't think they know what is right, but they know what is right. Abraham was always doing the right thing at the right time. His track record proved it. I want you to go to Genesis chapter 12, and let's go on a journey. Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12. And boy, I'm feeling the freedom right now just to kind of get it done because nobody's taking notes, and I didn't realize how good this felt. But Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, look at it. Abraham had this track record. God said about Abraham in Genesis 19, I know what he's going to do, and I know what he's like. You want to know why? Because Abraham had proved himself with God chapters and years before. Look at Genesis 12:1. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto the land that I will show thee. You know what? There was no land that he knew where he was going. You know what God said? Get up from where you're at and get out that door, and as you're going, I'll tell you where you're going to end up at. Do you know what God knew about Abraham? He had enough faith in me to step out when I told him what to do. He was not assured where he was going or how it was going to work out. All he knew was God said, go that way. And guys, can I tell you something? Part of commanding and leading your family is when you sit there and when the Holy Ghost of God hits you there, don't you question it. Don't you discuss it. You get up, you step out and say, this is the way we're going. This is how we're going to live life. This is what God told me. Now that's where I'm going. And the beautiful thing about this is, who cares how long it takes for your wife to follow? She'll follow. And all you have to do is just step out. Strong leaders are not leaders that demand and degrade their followers. Strong leaders, those who command their families, they don't turn around and holler at their wife and their children. They don't degrade their wife and their children, and they don't use verses to beat up their wife and children. You know what they say? This is what God did in my heart, and I'm headed this way. Get up and go. You say, well, what if she's upset? Let me tell you something. The only thing she's upset about is change, not the direction. No wife likes change. But no wife likes a husband who can't get up and go because God spoke to your heart. Boy, it's getting quiet, but that's okay because I'm enjoying myself. I checked the sermon with Kelly and I'm right on target, so I'm okay. I lead my home. Here we go. Are you ready? God knew Abraham would do the right thing. I'm headed someplace that I think is just dynamite. God knew Abraham would always do the right thing. Why? Because he proved to God, I have faith in you. Genesis 13:7. Go there. Genesis 13:7. How did God know what kind of leader Abraham would be with his wife and his children? You want to know why? Because he knew Abraham had faith in me to do what I told him to do. Then Genesis 13:1, look at it. Genesis 13 verse 7, I'm sorry. Are you there? Genesis 13:7. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelleth then in the land. Look at verse 8. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no... Did you see that? Let there be no what? I pray thee between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Do you know how God knew that he was a man after God's own heart? And by the way, he is the only man in the Bible that is called the friend of God. You want to know why? Because he carried the heart of God, because he didn't like strife. Do you know a husband that commands, and he's that kind of leader? You know what I know this about him? He's got faith in God. God, you speak to my heart, we're up and we're going. But I know this, second of all, he doesn't like drama. No drama, mama. No strife. But a leader who loves the strife, stirs the strife up, that's not a leader. That's not a leader. And our children and our moms need to know, our wives need to know that when daddy gets home, he's calm, he doesn't like strife. Don't you be fighting, no strife. We're not going to have this between the herdsmen. You're done fighting with your brother. You're done fighting with your sister. We are not having strife. Lower your voice. Stop screaming. That's enough. And you better be able to turn around to your house and say this, whoa, that's enough. That's enough. When that woman gets geared up and she hits about soprano level to break glass, somebody needs to say, now woman, that's enough. I don't know what that's enough. Boy, it's getting quiet in here, but I'm going to tell you right now, every husband's been there when that woman starts climbing that mountain with that boy. Thank you for the smiles because you're helping. I'm feeling good right now. She starts climbing. You know why she keeps climbing? Because there's nobody up there to lower his voice and drop his eyebrows and just saying this. No, that's enough. You've had your say. Now that's enough. Now you women right now that don't like that, you want to know why you don't like that? Because you've been allowed to get away with it. It's a cold day. Before Deanna Dawn Gray, when she lived at my house, going to scream at me. Want to know why it's a cold day before she'll scream at me? Because it's a cold day before she'll scream at me without me saying anything. Y'all breathe deep. There needs to be somebody who said, whoa, time out. We don't have strife. We don't do strife. We don't. We'll move on. Next. Genesis chapter 14. In verse number 14. Look at it, Genesis 14:14. How did God know? Abraham, he's the man. He's commanded his family. He will be the guy that will lead his family. Faith in God. No strife with man. By the way, I'm not saying shut her down right away when she gets going. I'm just saying you ought to have a level to where you're like, you done spoke your mind on the subject. Now that's enough. Whoa, okay. No matter how I try to soften this one, it's not going well. And by the way, guys, don't ever try this before you're married. You only have the right to do it after you're married. I can just see you guys going on a date. Shut up, woman. Pow. And Genesis 14:14. Look at it. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. You know how God knew? Abraham had already proved himself. Why? Because he had faith in God. He had no strife with man. Number 3, he would fight for his family. He would fight for his family. Do you know bullying in America would stop like that if the mamas would get home and let the dads step in? Why are we sending our women to war? Why are we sending our women to deal with problems? Let me tell you something. Being a youth pastor, I would much rather deal with 50 women. Because mamas, when they get all, I'd deal with 50 of them. You know who I didn't want to deal with? Dad. In the 22 years I was youth pastor, you listen to me, I probably only had about a dozen dads say, I want to see you in your office after tonight. And I would sit right here next to my dad, and when I would sit here, I wasn't listening to a thing that was going on. Want to know why? Daddy wanted to see me. And even now when a man says, I need a meeting with you, I'm like, whoa, God, have him send his woman, because I can't take him. I know how to box with a woman. You just throw something out there, and oh, that was wrong. Becky, I love that look on your face, like, I cannot believe. And Scott, control your woman. And can I tell you that whatever happened to a man saying, that's enough, you're not going to talk that way to my wife. Whatever happened, you don't, no. Do you know abuse in the school would stop if the daddies would show up? Because you let a mama take away from her coffee, that ain't nothing. You let a man have to stop work, put his tools up, go off the job and lose money, now he's mad. Now I'm going to take about $50 out of your hide because you made me stop what I was doing, and now I got to come take care. When are we going to fight for our family to where everybody knows you deal with this family, you're dealing with me, because I don't put up with no shenanigans? Do you know why boys feel like they can touch the girls in your family? Because the dad hadn't walked through their world and said, you touch her and you die. Teenage pregnancies would go down if the daddies would step to the front of the pulpit, and the front of the porch, and would set, pulpit would be good too, from the front of the porch and say this, I'm going to tell you right now, she comes back with one mark on her, or she comes back even telling me that you got close to her, I will kill you. Can I get an amen, Brother Moore? Praise God. Are you listening to that, Mitchell? You say, well, you got to be nice. It's not politically correct to hand a bullet to somebody. Well, not with my gun, it's not politically correct. Mine don't do any damage. They come out the end of my gun, they just drop straight down. But you asked Josh, I gave him a bullet. And I said, I got the gun to go with that. Well, are you a Second Amendment guy? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, I got it tattooed across my back. Let me tell you something. Just kidding. And the older I get, it goes Second Amendment. And, oh, it's going to be a long night. Let's move on. Fight for the family. Look at Genesis 15, verse 9. Look at it. Men, we are either spiritually leading by commanding, or we're confusing. God said this about Abraham. God said this about Abraham. I know Abraham, he'll command his children. Why? Because he had faith in me. I know Abraham will command his family because he's anti-strife. I know Abraham will command his family because he'll load up and go fight for the family and get him back. By the way, can I just step up and say this on this fight thing, because I saw it in my notes and it's all black and white. It was supposed to be highlighted and it's black and white right now. Can I step up and just say this? Don't let your children continue down a path you know is going to hurt them, only to confuse them later on. If you know the first step's going to hurt them, then the third step's going to hurt them, and walk into their room and say that you ain't doing that. That ain't happening. Well, I want to develop their reasoning skills, so I'll just reason. They're 7. Okay, I'll move on. Here we go. Genesis 15, verse 9. Look at it. And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. Look at verse 15. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram what? Drove them away. Do you know what that literally means? That literally means that when the sacrifice was laying on the altar, Abraham said, that's a sacrifice right there, and I'm going to keep the birds away until the sacrifice is accepted by God. Abraham, you know why God said, Abraham's my man. Abraham will command. I'm headed somewhere because I get excited about the last one. He said, Abraham's my man. You know what I know about Abraham? He realizes the value of sacrifice. Now, men, you listen to me. You're not going to lead your family like you need to lead them until you realize the value of sacrifice. It's time for us men to start sacrificing to get the job done. Not just saying, well, I'll go if I feel like it. I'll do if I feel like it. That's not good enough, because we're confusing our children. We're confusing our women. We ought to be saying, it's worth the sacrifice to make sure that my family knows that I'm all for God. And if it takes me a little bit of sacrifice, I'll get it done. Do you know what a wife really wants? She really wants a man that says, sit still, we're going for the long haul. Well, this is going to cost us a new home. Better it's cost us a new home, sweetheart. And our children, our families in church. Well, it's going to cost us sleep. Better it cost us sleep. Better it cost us time. Boy, when are we going to man up and say, woman, sit still. Children, sit still. That's not being degrading to women. Don't send me an email and say, I just can't believe you're that way with women. Women want spiritual leadership. You do it on NFL Sunday when she wants to watch them stupid renovation shows. Boy, I hit a nerve there, didn't I? It's like, I want to watch them rip up a house. Woman, you sit there. Football's on right now. You can sacrifice. I'm watching my game. Then let's do the same thing when it comes to the things of God. When it comes to tithing and giving and going and being and doing, let's get a sacrifice about us that says this: we are going to be the kind of family that we are going to sacrifice. What is that sacrifice that we need to do for God? And that's what we're going to do. God knew that Abraham would command. God knew that he was these 4 things. That he had faith in him, no strife with man, he would fight for his family, he knew the importance of sacrifice. Why? What's the value in being somebody who commands? I want you to look at Genesis chapter 18 and verse number 17. God's getting ready to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now please listen to me, men. God's getting ready to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Danger's coming down the path to his family. God knows that city's going to be destroyed. Look at the amazing thing that God said about Abraham. Genesis 18:17. Can we read it together out loud? Are you ready? Begin. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do? When you and I step up and we go, I'm leading my family, do you have any idea what this verse is saying? Brother Robinson, could I get you to come here real quick? Come here, Brother Robinson. When you say, I'm going to lead my family, and Mrs. Robinson, could you come? And all the little Robinsons, could you come and stand behind Dad? Would you do that? Stand right there. When a man says, I'm stepping up and leading my family, I'm going to have faith in God. I want no strife. I want no drama. I literally am going to fight for my family. I know the value of sacrifice. I'm going to get it done. Then do you have any idea what this verse is saying? I love Joe. He has no socks on. No shoes on. I love Joe. Do you literally know what this means? And let me make sure my breath smells good. If this is Abraham, do you literally know what this means? I'm going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and I don't want to hide this from you. So I'm going to let you know that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you heads up, inside trading information. I'm God. I'm going to destroy. Don't go near Sodom.
Amen.
And where there's father, husband, leaders leading their family off the cliff. Why are our families falling apart? Oh, it's the world. I don't think so. I don't think so. Oh, it's that public school system. I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, it's that Christian school. I don't think so. Well, it's that church. I don't think so. You know what it is? We are not commanding our family enough to where we hear the inside information. It's called wisdom. You need to pay attention to that youngest one. He has no shoes on. You need to pay attention to your wife. She let him come to church with no shoes on. Well, you know, all these families that have these children that have gone through this and gone through this, I am just amazed at how, no. There's a secret wisdom that comes from a husband, father, leader who will command his family. And God said, I'm not going to hide this from Abraham. Can I ask you a question? Do you need God to speak to you, sir? Or are you smart enough to lead a woman? Ain't nobody born with that much smarts. You better go to her manufacturer and find out exactly how does she work. Because every day's a new problem. You know that troubleshooting part and everything? God, what is going on? And do you know what you're going to find out? God's the only one that can help you with children. God's the only one that can help you with your family. God's the only one that can give you the wisdom you need. Thank you, Brother John. Take your shoeless kid and go sit down. So that's Abraham. Abraham commanded. And what security there is, very quickly, and I've got to hurry, look at Lot. Look at Lot. I won't spend much time here just because of the awful nature that's here. Look at Genesis 19:14. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. Listen to this. The end result of Lot's life was he had no spiritual influence over his children for right. I want you to listen to that. That's sad. He had no spiritual influence over his children for right. Lot was always making the wrong personal choices in life. Instead of fixing the strife, he separated. In Genesis 13:7-11, you'll find that the strife that we read with Abraham, instead of fixing the strife, he separated. Lot chose direction toward wickedness and sinners. He did not make the step. He simply turned his direction to where now he was exposing his family to the sights, now I'm headed somewhere, to the sights and sound of Sodom. Abraham dwelled in the land, Genesis 13:12. Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan. Go there if you don't mind, Genesis 13:12, men. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. Look at verse 13. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord what? Exceedingly. You know what the word exceedingly means? It means a wicked glow on the earth. It meant that God, when he looked down literally in this city, saw a glow. That's how wicked it was. Well, if God could see it, Lot could see it. So Lot chose the direction. And if I do the math right, and Brother Thompson, you're who I would trust on the math here. But if I do the math right in Genesis, I know there's at least 13 years between the time that Lot pitched his tent and when the angels entered into the city. That's 13 years, look at this, of changing and changing and changing and changing and changing and changing. And no wonder he brought confusion to his children. Lot chose the direction, only to end up 13 years later in the city. What started out as a direction in his life ended up as a destination. And if you don't want to confuse your children to destruction, then be someone who commands their children, and you only move because God told you to move, and you only do because God told you to do, not because it's the easier, well-watered plain. The confusion for the family was the fact that, listen to this, normal living was interrupted with a spiritual pleading. It wasn't spiritual living, it was normal living was interrupted with spiritual pleading. You say, well, how normal was Lot's life? Here's how normal it was. Go to Genesis 19 verse 1. Genesis 19 verse 1. Here's how normal it was. Boy, this is so sickening and sad that I'm glad the Bible puts it in such biblical terms. Genesis 19:1. Look how normal life was for the Lot household. And there came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet. And ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. Listen to this. This is normal living. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Normal living, normal living. But before they laid down, normal living. The men of the city, normal living. Even the men of Sodom, normal living, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Normal living for the Lot family. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. Normal living, men. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Normal living, stop right there. Normal living. Their confusion was not over the normal living. Their confusion was over the spiritual pleading, because they didn't understand, why is Lot now asking us to be spiritual and follow God when our normal way of living, we lived in a city. Lot, what do you want? Two men came into you tonight, bring them out that we may know them. Lot says, y'all wait right here. Steps out, shuts the door and says, guys, bros, brothers, what are you doing? Come on, Lot. We saw them go in. They're newbies in this town. You let them come out to us. Grandpas, sons, grandsons, old and young. This is normal living. Can you see mom in there and the two girls? Hey, what's dad doing? Well, you know, he's hanging with his brothers. Oh, it's them again? Yeah, it's them again. Okay, normal living. Look at verse 8. I wrote two things under verse 8 in my study Bible. How many daughters did he sacrifice the same way? Look at what he said. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Seriously? We're shocked by that, but this was normal living. Can you see the sisters? Get ready, because you know what Dad's going to do. Get ready. I guess it's our time. Lot was on his way to putting his daughters, but it was normal living. These kids were so confused. But the confusion didn't happen until Daddy woke up from a selfish state because he didn't want to be destroyed. Look at verse 12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters? Now we're fast forward to the angels. And whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the city is because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord has sent unto us to destroy it. Look at verse 14. And Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place. For the Lord. You know where the confusion came from? Is that Lot just allowed everybody to do what they wanted to do, even to the point to where Sodomites were his buddies, and it was going to be commonplace to give his daughters. Let them do whatever they're going to do. He's going to go back in. This was normal living. The confusion came when Daddy said, God has said. God? Dad, we've lived in Sodom all these years. God? God. The Lord? I think I've heard about him somewhere. God, the Lord. And do you know what his sons-in-law said? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. The Lord has said. Oh, that's a good one. Have we, men, can I just talk to you frankly? Have we so confused our children that normal living is missing church? Normal living is cutting out early? Normal living, this is just normal living? We go do our ritual, we might as well be good Catholics to where, Hail Mary, full of grace, save us from this awful place, swing them high, swing them low, go Mary, go, go, go. Have we so come down to where we're ritualistic, and then we go out and do whatever we want to, wear whatever we want to, listen to whatever we want to, go wherever we want to, and then our kids are going, like the Lord really cares about what we do? The Lord wants me to dress how? Ha, that's a good one. The Lord wants me to, what? We've never paid attention in church. I've always brought my dolls and played army men during church. I've always had my snack during church. Bible? You want me to take what to church? No, I need my gummy bears. I need my blankie with and I need to get underneath the pew and pay my little army men until you people get done doing whatever you're doing. No wonder our children are confused. Because we have so lived normal. Joe right now has his eyes with no shoes on, glued on Pastor. Sitting on the second row. Y'all are pretty brave to put that boy on the second row. But isn't it amazing that ever since y'all have come to the second row, his behavior is getting better and getting better and getting better. You want to know why? You've not confused him about what this auditorium is all about. You listen to me. Don't you confuse your children. Stop running. Stop running. Stop playing in the baptistry. Playing in the baptistry. Like, what's so sacred about that? We never see anybody get baptized anyways because we always leave early. That's a swimming pool up there. It's a swimming pool. You listen to me. Don't you be shocked if your children come up as confused as a Baptist marrying 5 Mormon women. I have no idea where that came from. Because we have created a normal way of living. Then when somebody says, purity? Purity? Don't hold his hand. Seriously? Confused. I said it wasn't going to take long, but I'm enjoying myself. Lot so confused his family. Please listen to this. They were so confused. This is so sad. And I so appreciate how God put this in his book. He so shelters all of us. I love God. They were so confused that look at verse number 15, Genesis 19. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hands of his wife, and upon the hands of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. Drop down to verse 26. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of what? Saw. Do you understand that his wife was so confused? Lot, we have lived this way all of our life, and now you want me to go to church, and now you want me to do what's right? So as they're dragging her out of the city, she goes, oh, whew. God turned her into a pillar of salt. Look at this. Now drop down to verse 31. This blows my mind, but it doesn't shock me. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. It was so normal living. You got sodomites. Everybody's immoral. Everybody's doing what they want to do. It was so normal living that the girls were like, you know what their logic was? Well, I guess what we need to do is, what do you think, sis? Well, yeah, he was going to give us to a bunch of sodomites back there in Genesis, whatever. He don't care. Why not? What do you think? Yeah. You listen to me. Don't you be shocked when our kids are confused about their morals. And they can't even make a right moral decision. You dads better step up to the plate and stop confusing your family. They need to know. These are the sacrifices we make. They need to know. You say, boy, you're really bringing it down hard and tough. It better come down hard and tough, because we got another generation to raise. And we may not have done it right with the previous generations at times, but you listen to me. We got it one shot with this generation, and we all better step up to the plate and understand this. As husband leaders, we cannot confuse the people under us. We must command the people under us. 5 things, and then we're done. 1, every husband, father must let God change you. Every husband, father must let God change you. Number 2, every husband, father must decide for their family the rights and wrong. But I know this, once God changes you, then you won't decide some whacked out right. It'll always fall within the Bible right there. 3rd, every husband, father take a conservative position, conservative biblical position on every issue. Every issue. You got that? Every issue. There is no small issue. No small issue. Every issue, be conservative. Every issue, be biblical. Every issue, be to the right. Every issue, be where you need to be. I'm going to your left, aren't I? Every issue, be to the right. Every issue, be over here. Be that husband. Be that father that says, we're going to do it the Bible way. What does the Bible have to say about this? Next. Every husband, father must speak of the Lord as often as you can. Every father, husband must speak of the Lord as often as you can. Let your wife know the Lord is the biggest thing in my world. Let your children know the Lord. Next, because I'm burning up, and we're done. Every husband, father must focus on the spiritual more than the physical. Be physically tired, but be spiritually renewed. Be physically poor, but be spiritually rich. Be physically meager, but be spiritually wealthy. Do not get so focused on the riches and gold of this world that it costs you spiritual wealth. Please listen to me. You won't be happy with your world. And where you think you have a sweet wife, you are setting your wife and your children up for moral failure. you are going to ruin your marriage and your children. And I think somebody needs to step up to the husbands and the men and say this. Listen to me. You're either commanding your wife and your children, or you are so confusing them. Let's not confuse them. Let's command. Here's what the invitation is going to be for. It's not for the women. It's not for the children. It's only for those who are a husband and those who are a father. And if you're sitting here tonight, don't put your stuff up. Not time to go anywhere. Please don't disrespect all the preparations that's gone into this by getting your stuff ready to go. Every husband and father, if God has spoken to your heart and you say, I don't want to confuse my wife and I don't want to confuse my children, then I think we need to gather around this altar and I think we need to make a commitment to God. God, I want to be that man that commands and not confuses. Let's stop leading from a position of selfishness, what pleases us. And let's stop leading from a position of spitefulness that we can get the good out of life without God. Shall the creation say to the Creator, no. He's the potter. He holds in our hand, His hand, us. Heads bowed, eyes closed. Husbands, fathers, if God's spoken to your heart, would you join me at the altar, please? Don't come because of any other reason than God at some point has spoken to your heart. Musicians, if you'll make your way, please. I want you to take your time. I want you to take your time in prayer.